Every Sunday, people just like you and I get in our cars and drive to Journey. Some old, some young, some families, kids all stuffed into one vehicle, you know. It's awesome. It happens every week. And while we're all different, have different stories, come from different backgrounds, or in different places in our life journey, we all have one thing in common. It's that when we arrive, we want to experience something real, something meaningful. And then we hope that our drive will lead us to some answer. It reminds me of this story in the Bible, in the book of John, about this guy, Nicodemus, who wanted to ask Jesus some questions because he had some answers, just like us. But unlike us, Nicodemus was this famous leader of religious law at the time. A Pharisee, but not just any Pharisee, like the Pharisee, you know. He would have commanded every societal privilege, every respect, every honor, and he would have had all the power imaginable of a man in his stature at that time. But yet, Nicodemus had some questions for Jesus. And in this unbelievable point in Scripture, in this moment of humility, Nicodemus approaches Jesus and he says, "Rabbi, teacher." And the moment he says that, he exalts Jesus above himself, the guy that everybody would have looked at as the guy when it came to questions about religious law. And then he goes on to say, "Teacher, we know that God sent you to teach us." And so to set the scene, you have this untouchable, most unbelievably respected religious leader who people would come to when they had questions. And he had questions of his own, and he was looking for something real, so he went to Jesus. And over the course of that conversation, Jesus and Nicodemus talk about a number of things, but it's in this conversation that Jesus says something so huge and so powerful that when you and I see it today, we're like, well, that makes sense, right? Like, that's one of the foundations of our Christian faith, that statement, that fact, that truth. But at the time, Nicodemus would have had no idea that Jesus was talking about himself. Jesus looks at Nicodemus and he says, "Nicodemus, for God so loved the world that he sent his one and only Son, that whoever believes in him will have eternal life." And as if that statement wasn't big enough, he follows it up by saying, "For God did not send his Son into the world to judge the world, but to save the world through him." We see this as like the stalwarts of our Christian faith, the things that we preach and we listen to all the time. But one of the cool things about this one-on-one conversation 2,000 years ago was that Jesus was explaining something very personal to Nicodemus. He was saying, "For God so loves you, Nicodemus, that he sent me." That God does not want to judge you, Nicodemus. He wants to save you, Nicodemus, through me. And in this conversation that Jesus and Nicodemus has, Jesus explains God's goodness, God's grace, and God's character. And he gives Nicodemus the exact message that he needs to hear. And it's a message that we need to hear even today. And Nicodemus gets to experience the exact message, a message that we all need to experience, a type of love that we all need to experience. Because that changes us. Now I get it. Not everybody gets to sit down like Nicodemus and have a one-on-one conversation in the flesh with Jesus. That would be awesome, right? But we all still get to experience the message that Jesus shared with Nicodemus. And the reason that is because for the last 2,000 years, God has been sharing that message through his most important gift, people. For the past 2,000 years, God has been using people to be the carrier of that very same message. God has been using people as the bearer of that torch. He sent the apostles out to share the gospel. He gave us people like the Apostle Paul that would plant and lead churches. He gave us all these people that we would read about in Scripture. And even crazier than that is he gave us all of these different people that we've never heard of that have shared that very same message that Nicodemus heard 2,000 years ago. And it makes sense, right? Like, none of us just ended up in our relationship with God by accident. We didn't accidentally show up at church one day. No, somebody invited us. No, somebody guided us. No, somebody led us in that relationship with Jesus. And for that, we should be eternally grateful. I'm saying this because every Sunday, we say that our mission is to invite and lead people into a growing relationship with Jesus Christ. But after people pile into their cars and they make that drive to our campus, who's going to be there to greet them? Who's going to be there to meet them and meet their kids in Wambaland? Who's going to be there to make that parent feel comfortable when they're checking their kid into Upstreet for the first time? Who's going to be the person that carves out hours of their weeks to lead a small group? Who are going to be the people that lead teenagers in some of the most difficult times of their life and explaining God's truth to them when things can be a little bit confusing and the world tells them something different? Who are the people that are going to be sharing the same message that Nicodemus received 2,000 years ago? Is it going to be you?
What an incredible, incredible message, and really it's such an important question. Who is going to be there? Who's going to be there when that man is walking forward through one of the hardest times of his life? Who's going to be in community group with him? Who's going to be the small group leader that is there week after week for that student who is brand new to town and has no other friends? Who's going to be there for that child whose family just broke apart and they're coming to church hoping for some level of consistency? That question is at the heart of so much of what we do. You see, our mission here is to invite and lead people into a growing relationship with Jesus Christ. And in order for us to do that, many people have to answer that same question. Who's going to be there? Who will be there when someone turns the corner and their belief is that they've been so bad that if they even get on the church property, the flames are going to come down from heaven? Who's going to be there with a smile and say, hey, you're welcome, just as you are? Who's going to be that person that doesn't forget about someone because they fell short? You see, today we're going to hear from a couple of our volunteers. And these are some folks who have said, they've wrestled with that question too, just like all of us. And they've said, you know what? I think that's going to be me. And it's really intriguing why someone would say that. And we get to hear from them today a little bit about their story and their experience and why they said, you know what, God, I want that person to be me. I want to be one of those people who are there. And their stories remind me so much of just how beautiful the church can be when we all collectively participate in making this community vibrant, making this community strong, making sure everyone feels known and loved. When we all serve together, it reminds me actually of the way that the church was described in the Bible in the book of Acts. You see, we have this picture of the church, the first generation, after Jesus died and was resurrected and ascended. Well, before he ascended, he established his disciples to be apostles. That means that they would build the church. And in the building of the church, that first generation, Jesus was not walking around doing things anymore. He was in heaven, right? And so they're kind of where you would think that they're on their own. But this little community started getting a lot of notoriety. And they were not known for being fancy or having big services or things like that. That's not exactly what it was. What it was is that people who were on the outside looking in said, those folks really have a strong community. They love each other. They serve one another. They serve together. They do so much. They love it so much. They love serving so much that they serve us and we're not even a part of it. What they were doing, the heart of generosity, the heart of servanthood was so irresistible that it caused people who were not even remotely interested in a new religion to come to get a closer look at what might be motivating these people to live in this way. And as they came and got a closer look, they saw Jesus. They saw Jesus. They saw him. Though Jesus had ascended to heaven, they saw him in action. And they said, if this is what's moving you to be this way, I see you as rich. And this was a poor little community. There was not big money in this community, but yet people saw them as rich. And they said, I want some of that. I want to be a part of that. It was a really cool thing. You see, the Lord teaches us through his word and through the example that he gave, that when we give to others, when we serve others, then we are rich. We're lifting up the name of Jesus together. I'm excited today because this is a topic that we love. Like I said, our mission is to invite and lead people into a growing relationship with Jesus Christ, which means we're not ashamed to say, hey, the way we do this is we all pull together. But today, instead of listening to me preach a sermon or James preach a sermon, we've decided that I want to let you hear. We want you to hear from people who are actually doing this. They're not on staff. These are people who said, you know what, I want that person to be me. I don't know what it's going to look like. I don't feel like I have all of the stuff. You know, it's easy to disqualify ourselves and say, I'm not that person. What can I do? I don't know everything about the Bible. Gosh, I've got so much going on in my life. There's a lot of good reasons, legit reasons to say maybe not me, but these people had those same reasons and they said, you know what, maybe it should be me. And so I want to hear from them today. I want you to know when you're hearing, I just want you to listen. I'm not asking anyone today. Listen, we're not saying, hey, commit to serving today. I mean, these kind of things may take some consideration. We want you to truly consider them. We want you to hear what they have to say, see yourself in the story and say, God, is this how you were leading me in my growing relationship with Jesus Christ? That's the deal I'm looking for from you today. If you're listening at home, just check it out and say, is this what you might be saying to me? Now, I'm excited to bring out our first guest today. He is a volunteer with our elementary age environment, which we call Upstreet. And he's a small group leader there. That means every week he goes out there and kids come here and they know they're going to see Mark when they get here. They get a big, fist pound, a nice pandemic elbow, you know what I'm saying? So like, it's a good time. I see the excitement on their face. Y'all help me make some noise for Mark Botsett as we bring him out. Come on, Mark. My man, what's happening?
How are you?
Oh, I am doing good, man.
Good. I apologize first to these guys for interrupting this. I can listen to this guy talk all day. So, encouraging.
We are excited to hear from you, man. First of all, I got to get me one of those T-shirts right there.
Yeah, that's right.
That's the drip right there.
Special.
Now, here is the deal. I'm excited to hear from you because what you guys do, I've got kids in the Upstreet environment, and I love when I walk by and I see the excitement that they have. When you bring them here, they're like, oh my God. They see their small group leader and they know them. And they want to go to them. Now, we've talked a little bit about like what God does through serving. It's part of how he grows us. Some of y'all who have been here a while, you've heard James talk about the 5 things that God uses to grow us. One of those things is personal ministry. And personal ministry is kind of like this. You can't fully experience what the church can do for you until you begin to experience what the church can do with you and through you. God uses the serving to serving others to grow us. And we want personal ministry to be experienced by everyone here, everyone listening anywhere. So Mark, my question for you is why even do this? Like, why is volunteering important for you?
Right, so a couple of reasons for me, really. One is I think we're called as Christians to do that. And secondly, for me, it's about paying it forward. So as a Christian, Jesus was asked one time, what is the most important commandment? And he said there are 2. The first is love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your mind, and with all your soul. But the second, he said, is equally important. That's to love your neighbor as yourself. And I think as a volunteer, you have that opportunity to show love to your neighbor here at Journey, specifically in Upstreet to these students. And for me, I get an opportunity, I think, to serve not only one community, but a second, and I get a twofer as an Upstreet volunteer, so I think that's a special thing about being in children's ministry. So while I'm back serving your students or your children, teaching them the truths that you want them to know and that we want them to know that's going to really better their lives, as a parent, you're able then to come out here, come into this auditorium, into this environment, where you're going to hear practical lessons and teachings that you can apply to your life, making your life better, making your children's lives better. So for me, as an Upstreet volunteer, I get that twofer, an opportunity to serve 2 communities. So I think that's just really cool.
That's actually really incredible because that's such a good point. Like I have 4 kids. If I'm bringing 4 kids to church, and they've got to sit on the row with me, you can imagine what kind of distraction that could be, because they have needs and we're their parents, we meet their needs. But the thing about it is you can't send them to some room that's not been prepared for them, that people aren't there to care for them, because you're gonna be getting calls every 3 minutes, come get this kid, right? Because he's not happy. So it's really cool as a parent to know that my kids never wanna come out because they're with their peoples in there, and you guys are in there doing that. It's a really incredible thing. When I think about what it is that you've shared, it also comes to mind that that twofer, right? That goes long beyond your like after you're done serving here. That's pretty incredible. Now, when you were deciding whether you want to serve or not, you probably, maybe you're feeling a tug. Maybe you're feeling like, man, I think I might be able to do this. You may not have felt like you were like super qualified, but you felt a tug. But like we all do when we're experiencing something like that, all these arguments come up and these obstacles and all of these reasons why we can't. Maybe I don't have time. Maybe something we believe about ourselves that says, oh, I can't be the guy to do that. So what was it that helped you get through those obstacles, and how did you set yourself up to serve?
So it really boiled down to commitment. I mean, it really did, because 4 kids also, baseball, softball, soccer, dance, recitals, school plays, all of that. So if you're waiting until you have time to volunteer, you probably are never going to take that step. You have to make time. It has to be intentional, and that's what we did. We decided that church is going to be important in our lives, and service is also going to be important, because we know that we grow through service. So we made that commitment, and on those Sunday mornings where it's cold and rainy outside, or it's sunny and warm, we're here, and because we committed to doing that. And I think it boils down to that. Sometimes it just boils down to, you said you're going to be here, and you need to be here to fulfill the commitment that you made.
Yeah. And that's a thing that you said you did, and you said, you kept it a priority. What's cool about it is that your kids got to see that as well. Why don't you tell me a little bit about that?
So my kids grew up in Journey, and so they went through Wamba and Upstreet and Transit and Inside Out, and in every single one of those environments, there was someone, multiple people actually, who fed into their lives, who spoke words of wisdom, who told them about God's love, who
Right, so but it's like a legacy that gets left, because they see all of the people around them, but then they see Dad doing it too.
Yeah, so it gets kind of emotional for me, but they saw that, and they see it in my life, or they saw it in other people, and I want to continue a legacy. I grew up in a family that served. I saw the benefits that they received from it. I saw the benefits other people received from it. I wanted to carry that on. I want my kids to see that as well. So it is about a legacy, and I want to pay it forward because the people did it for my kids.
I hear you, man. And I appreciate that, man. And you start talking about the benefits that you see for other people. But I hear so many times when people are serving, and I hear it coming across in your tone, and I can see the emotion, which is, I get that. People are often surprised that, hey man, I thought I was going to be serving other people, but this has impacted me so much. I didn't know how much God was going to do in my life by serving. So Mark, I'm going to ask you, how has serving impacted your personal life?
So a couple of different ways. One, and you may not think about this, but the reality is, as you're preparing to teach elementary students, you're teaching the same truths that you as adults are learning and talking about in the service here. So, I'm growing as I am teaching them. I'm reading scripture, and I'm learning and being reminded of the stories in the Bible and the characters in the Bible and what Jesus had to say about the kind of people we should be. So, the thing is, the other opportunity is that you see the kids grow. You see them, come into Upstreet maybe knowing nothing or little about Jesus, and you see them grow, and you see them move on, and maybe they volunteer in Wamba Land, and then they go to the other environments, and you see and you hear stories about students who one day decide that they need Jesus in their life, that they want Jesus to be their Savior, and they accept Christ as their Savior, and they are baptized. And to think that you had played a role in that, and that God used you as a vessel to maybe plant the seed that someday led to a decision like that. Whew, sign me up for that.
Yeah, man. I mean, really, there's nothing cooler There's nothing of more value that we can spend our time on than something that says to someone, I love you so much that I want to make way for you to meet Jesus. And I want you to know his love for you. And it's incredible that the small things you do, the things that may not seem directly connected to like eternity, right? Just being there and giving that pound, each week, right? That it sets the foundation for someone to say, I think I can trust Jesus. I also wanted, what are those three truths that you guys teach in Upstreet?
So we want you to know that God loves you, or that, you caught me off guard there. That we need to make the wise choice, right? And we need to treat others the way we want to be treated, and we can trust God no matter what.
That's
there
incredible.
We go.
That's incredible because these kids, like my kids, they know that. They know that because you guys each week are not just saying it, but you're living it out with them, and it's really incredible, and I love what you all do. Now, we've talked today about like the personal ministry side of it, and like, hey, this is how God can use me, or this is how God can grow me. We've talked about the obstacles and the things that get in the way. Like we're busy, and there's a lot of reasons why we might say no. We've also talked about some of the benefits to our personal life. So Mark, what would you say to someone who's listening today, maybe at home, maybe here in the room, who is on the fence about serving?
Right, so I would say get off the fence, right? Come on in, the water's fine. There aren't any sharks back there in Upstreet. And actually, I would like to make a specific plea to, specifically to men in the church, that we need men serving in Upstreet. So we need young men, we need middle-aged men, we need more mature men serving in Upstreet. We all know the statistics about the number of single-family homes. There may be, you as a male may be the only role model or male model that someone has in their life. And even that 1 hour a week may really make a true difference for someone. So I really encourage you, if you are a male and any of those age groups I mentioned, that we need you. We really do. We need you. And I just encourage you to take that step. Come check it out. What have you got to lose? I promise you, the benefits that you receive from it will far outweigh the sacrifice of an extra hour on Sunday.
Right. The things that we get to do as men, as a part of a community, to be a benefit to the children and the students that are growing up, to be a benefit to another brother, another adult who is, might be serving alongside us. The things that we get, like our role in the community is not a spectator one. There's actually some real power that we have there's nothing like a friend that'll just walk with you. And whether that friend is 20 years older than you or 30 years or your same age, there's just something to relationship. You see, this whole thing in the faith, it all boils down to relationship. It's not about how much you know and all of these things that we would wonder, like this is what makes someone qualified, when reality is it's the willingness to show up and say, I'm here for you. And Mike, you guys are doing that every time. And the truth is, there's something when I see kids run up, because there's the mamas and the aunties in our communities, there's the grandmas, they're hugging the kids and loving them. The kids are feeling loved and secure. But there's something cool when there's a guy in there and these kids come up feeling cool and they're like, yeah, what's up, Mr. Mark? And I love the energy there. And there's something that only the guys can do. So that's a great appeal. I love you for being there for my little ones. And they are so excited. As a matter of fact, Zeke is about to be stepping up to your group environment or Upstreet pretty soon. So you have blessed us today. Thank you for sharing your story and your insights and even some of the challenges and what really makes your heart pump about serving. And once again, y'all, can y'all make some noise for Mark Botzek? Thank you, my man. Something that Mark said really stands out to me. He talked about leaving a legacy. And leaving a legacy is something that when we do something today, but it impacts people who are going to come after us. And sometimes that legacy is for our children. Sometimes it's for just the next generation. Sometimes it's for just the people who would be learning about the faith later. Some people have ideas about the faith that are just so restricting and so, they just don't make you feel good and comfortable about growing. Like you have to be perfect. But when you serve as an imperfect person, when you're saying, hey, I'm willing to just show up and be a friend to someone and create this environment, you're leaving a legacy not only for your own family, but for our entire community. So Mark has really blessed me with that. I'm going to be thinking on that this day. We're hoping you're considering as well. Now, our next volunteer we're bringing out, she serves in our high school environment, which we call Inside Out. And she has a really cool role. She is a coach for the small group leaders. Y'all make some noise for Erica Billy. Hey, Erica.
Hey,
How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I am good. It is nice to see you. I'm so glad. Oh, man, y'all got the swag. I need to get one of those hoodies as well. That's what I'm talking about. See, you serve, you get your little
You
swag.
do.
Okay. So we've been having a conversation about serving. We just got a chance to talk with Mark.
Okay.
I know you know Mark. We've had a good chance to talk with him, but part of what we talked about was personal ministry. We talked about how God uses serving to grow us. And we talked about how there are some things that he's going to do that there's really no other way to get done except for us to serve other people. But the truth is, it's got to become personal. So I'd love to ask you, what is it that makes it so important for you to be involved in someone else's growing relationship with Jesus Christ?
Yeah, great question. For me, it's a couple of things. We all kind of have those moments in life where you look back and you think about kind of for me, the middle and high school years. We attended church every Sunday, day in, day out. But as I kind of looked back, it was like, hey, it was great to be at church, but I really didn't have anyone there to kind of guide me. Being a high school student, I wasn't a model student, I made some bad decisions. And just coming to student ministry just allowed me to, and I said like, hey, I want to be someone that's in the lives of these students. So that when they have these decisions that they want to make, these decisions that they do make, that they don't feel judged, they feel supported, and being able to partner with the small group leaders to help them as well. I think also the students. I got a sticker today. Went outside for a few minutes, and they just light up when they see you because they know that you're there day in and day out, each Sunday, supporting them and just being there for them. I think also, as an African-American woman, also being able to see other faces that look like me. So as students come into Journey, I want them to see someone that represents them. And so they say like, hey, I'm here too, I belong here. I can connect with people that are here. So I would say those are the main things for me.
Well, that's really cool. And a lot of what you talked about is relationship. People wanting to see where they are in relationship to Jesus and his family. Like, do I belong? Do I fit?
Yeah.
And the way people feel that sense of belonging is through the consistency of you volunteers being here every single week. Mm-hmm. You're here and you're saying, hey, what's up, man? I was looking forward to seeing you today. What's up, girl? How was your week? So that type of energy, when I think about my girls growing up and getting to the high school age, it means the world that they would have small group leaders like you and like the ones who you coach who are there to really know them and to bring them in. But the thing is, when you start thinking about being a small group leader or serving in any capacity, really, it's like, yeah, but listen, my kids are at a certain age right now, and they're involved in this, they're involved in that, or maybe there's someone else who would be a better fit for this. And so we all have these legitimate reasons where we start to like talk ourselves out of it. But for you, I'll ask you, like, what was it that made you sort of kind of work through all of those obstacles and say, I got to be in?
A couple things. Time, I think also effort, and just being okay with not knowing what the next step was. So I think when you think about volunteering and kind of pushing through life, like life brings you a lot of things, whether it's something that's going on at home, something that's going on at work, and just being able to kind of push some of that stuff aside and just acknowledge, one, that it's there. Like, we all got to work. We all love to come to church. And so, like, how do you even connect the two? And so if I'm going to be here, if my student is going to be here, can I even just say, hey, if I have to bring Izzy, I have a 11th grade son, if Izzy needs to be here on Sunday afternoon, why can't I just stay with Izzy while he's here on Sunday afternoon? And so just using those moments and not having to think that it requires a lot of extra stuff for me to do to be here. I think there's also just acknowledging that, like, again, going back to the time thing, like time is our friend, and how you use your time and invest in the lives of students, invest in ourselves, and just being able to give back to those in whatever circumstance. So for us, it's high school students. And so if I think about like how I'm giving my time to them, I don't care that, you know, Monday through Saturday, it's all about Erica, but on Sunday, it gets to be all about them. And so just being thoughtful of that and acknowledging that, like, I can set aside some time, not just for them, because, you know, we talked about my role. It's not to the students, it's really to the leaders. And so how do you be there for the leaders? How do you show up for them? It's not just a Sunday role. It's throughout the week. Sometimes you got to be able to connect with them. You want to be able to bring them together in community, and just being able to support them. And so it's not a one and done. And so it's just really just kind of just pushing through some of the stuff and knowing that it's bigger than Erica.
Well, that's what I'm catching from what you're saying. Like you're really in touch with your why.
Yeah.
You really are. And then I hear this theme of investment.
Yes.
Like you see that, you know, the time that you give is not wasted time. It's not even just spent time.
Yeah.
It's invested time. It's time that you put in knowing that it's going to benefit and it's going to have a return.
Yeah.
And it may not return personally to you, but it's
Yeah.
returning to the kingdom. It's returning to the lives of teenagers who will one day be adults and who may also turn around and invest back in. But you're also, there's something cool about what you do. You coach small group leaders. And so you're investing in them so that they are not feeling empty or alone, or like, a small group leader might be like, I think I might want to serve, but what do I have to give? Or what if I don't know this? Or what if that? And to know that when you volunteer, you're not alone. When you volunteer, you're on a team and you've got your peer leaders along with you, but you also have coaches like Erica who are not just saying, hey, do this, do that, but are building relationship with you and helping you know that, hey, I got you. And you're not in this thing alone. That's a really cool thing, and I love it. Now, when I hear volunteers talk, they often talk about the expectation of what they'd be doing, the job they'd be doing, and how it's going to benefit other people, but they're often surprised at just how much God uses serving to impact their own life. So, Erica, I'd love for you to speak to that. Like, what happened in volunteering when it changed from just being checking a box and it became incredibly personal for you?
Yeah, I think of two situations. One is I love when we have new small group leaders come in to student ministry for a couple of reasons. They don't come in with the assumption of, like, I know all the answers. If you can imagine, hanging out with high school students is pretty hard. They think they know everything. They do. They go through a lot, whether it's at school and just the pressure of wanting to just do good in school, or whether it's decisions that they encounter as a teenager. And you can imagine just all the decisions that they have to make. And so being able to come alongside the small group leader, she was new, and again, as you mentioned, like, you don't have to have all the answers. And so there's no handbook that says when student says X, you say Y. Like, it's a kind of an on the moment engaging. You just have to be okay stepping out there. And so just being able to come alongside her and join her in her journey of engaging with those students and just kind of moving forward and being okay with, like, we don't have all the answers, but we're going to do this together, and we're going to keep showing up each Sunday, and they're going to ask us some tough questions because we talk about some tough things in student ministry, but we're going to do it together. And so they enjoy that. The small group leader enjoyed that. The students enjoy that. I think another moment, actually I might have three, not two, is that showing up on Sunday for me is when the students, they said, hey, you come into my group? Because I'm not a small group leader, but I get to sit with them. And so being asked, even though I'm not their leader, like, that's special to me. I think the third thing is the one that really hits home, and you talked about it a little bit earlier, but it ties into kind of your decision of why. Like, I tried to quit a couple of months ago. So, like, it's not easy. Like, you have, as I mentioned, all these things coming at you. But I had our John, I'm gonna say your name, John Lero. I went to him and I said, hey, this is what I'm thinking. And he encouraged me. He reminded me of who I was in Christ. He reminded me of what I bring to student ministry. And he just poured so much into me. And so we talk about, like, being able to partner with the small group leaders, partner with the parents. But for me, being able to have someone speak to me and say, you matter, And it was just encouraging. And it just reminded me again of my why, because there are moments where you just want to, you've been doing it for so long and you just want to stop. But it's like, no, like you have purpose here, you have reason here, and you need to be here. And so just having someone to kind of pull you along when you need that pull every now and then.
And the thing about it is, as a volunteer, you're not just someone who comes and does a job. You're a professional, super smart, you're a mom. You know what I'm saying? You've got a lot going on in your life. You've got family members and neighbors and all these things, but you're trying to navigate what it means to walk with Jesus throughout life. As a volunteer, it's pretty cool that not only are you doing things, but there's also someone pouring into you. There's also people pouring into you. And everything I'm hearing you say keeps coming back to relationships. It keeps coming, and that's what it's all about with Jesus. It's about relationships. And so it's a cool thing to hear that even in a moment of struggle, a moment of like, okay, I'm not sure which way to go. I'm feeling these tugs. I'm feeling these challenges, that there is someone to walk with you. Sometimes when you see yourself going to church week in and week out and you're not feeling that sense of connection, what might be missing is being a part of a team where someone knows you and where you've had those coffee dates and those opportunities to really lean into, like, what's Christ doing in our lives together, and knowing that you're not by yourself. So, we've talked about the personal ministry side of it. We've talked about some of the obstacles and challenges and some of the great personal benefits. Erica, what would you say now to someone who might be listening online, or they might be here in the room and they're thinking about volunteering, but they're on the fence?
Yeah, so Mark told you guys jump in the water. I'm going to tell you, remember the old game of double dutch?
Yeah.
So just the jump rope.
Come on.
So
Take
I
it
just
back.
remember,
got it.
and I love double dutch. I love being the one who swung the ropes, and I love being the one who, you try to figure out when you jump in.
It's nerve-wracking right there,
It is
though.
nerve-wracking,
Yeah.
because you get in, and then you kind of stumble, and you might fall, but you just get back up. And so I think I would encourage folks, it's just like double dutch. You got to jump in at some point. The ropes are going to always be swinging of life, and just think of those ropes as life obstacles or successes or whatever they might be, and jump in. I think another thing is that going back to relationship, like I've met some great people in my environment that I serve in, and we have gone on trips, we have hung out at their houses, and it's just been amazing, and just the connection that comes with being a part of a community, specifically the student ministry community, and the students. And so I would say, just do it.
All right. We're going Nike with it?
We're going Nike with it?
Just do it. All right. Off that fence, just do it.
Yeah.
No, I'm loving the double dutch. That's really awesome. And thank you for that. I really, really appreciate you sharing your insight, your experience, your story with us. It is really, really a pleasure to know that there are ways, like you described, to have an impact not only on the lives of the people you're serving, but let God have the impact on you. So thank you once again, y'all. Please help me make some noise for Erica. Erica, thank you so much. Appreciate you. So we've heard from 2 volunteers today, and there's so many others like them who are experiencing the life of the church in another way, in part because of their serving. It's a real thing. I wouldn't want to hide it from you. I wouldn't want to give the impression that, everybody's welcome to come as you are. You can come in here. Listen, we got plenty of seats. You can come in and just hear something encouraging, and you can go home and you'll be in like Flynn. We love y'all. It's all good. But there's so much more. There's so much more to the life of walking with Jesus. There's so much more to the church and what he intended that to look like. And one opportunity is by serving. Now, we heard from 2 people who are in family ministry. So what family ministry is any of our environments that serve kids from preschool all the way up to high school. Okay? But the growing relationship with Jesus Christ continues even after that. And so when they get into their young adult years, we've got our 1830 ministry where there are volunteer opportunities there. We have adult ministries where there are opportunities in local compassion, and there's opportunities in group life. And there's so many opportunities to walk alongside people and be one of those folks, as it was said earlier by Matt, who was there for folk. And it's a cool thing that I want you all to know, but here's the deal. We often trip ourselves up by misinformation. You might think, well, man, there's only like 3 areas. I don't know if I do good with that age group. And you think that means, okay, then I'm out. Well, listen, there are so many ways to get involved. Some opportunities are every week. Some opportunities are once a month. Some opportunities are in this building. Some opportunities are online, moderating for our online services. Some opportunities are out in the parking lot where you may never even walk into the building. But you're out there so that when someone drives their car in here, there's someone there to wave and say, hey, we want to park over here. I got a smile for you, and I'm glad you're here. That experience sets the tone so that by the time they come in here, their heart and their mind is in a place to receive what God might be given, and it's because someone was out in the parking lot that set the tone. There are so many opportunities, so don't let misinformation make you think that there's not a place for you. Another thing that happens is this personal disqualification, and that's when we may start saying, we come up with arguments against ourselves. I just don't want to start and then stop, I'm not sure what my next 2 years are going to look like. The fact is, neither am I. You know what I'm saying? Like, the thing is, like, how many of us really know, like, what next year is going to look like? If you got a job in Boston, that's the great job. I don't know what you feel about Boston, but I'm just throwing out a city. And, like, it's the right opportunity. You might be heading off to Boston, right? So you don't have to know everything that's going to happen in the rest of your life to say, I'm here now, and I'm willing to give of what I have. Other arguments we have against ourselves is, like, maybe I'm just not the kind of lady or the kind of guy that can do this. Maybe I am not the model for these students. Maybe I'm not this. Maybe I'm not that. And the truth of the matter is, maybe you're not, but maybe you are, and you probably don't even know. You never know which relationship is going to be the one that is impactful. So maybe it's small groups with adults that you should serve in. Maybe it's serving in our local compassion. Maybe your story is just kind of, not straight enough so that people will say, man, I relate with that person because my life wasn't straight either. There's a place for everyone to serve. And don't disqualify yourself. Because the thing is, God is growing you from where you are. You don't have to act like anybody else. You make a terrible somebody else, but a good you. Start where you are and let him carry you through. And he's growing you through, not the selfish, just do for me, do for me, do for me. That's not what Jesus showed us. It's about, how can I take the little that I have? I don't know how, just value the little you have and say, I'm willing to give. Take my life and do something with it, and watch how we continue to grow. And that's the beauty of the gospel. And now is a good time. We come here to be encouraged. You checked in. You already made a step today. You went online and you went to our page, our YouTube, and said, I want to watch something and I want to hear something that's going to encourage me. I want to see what God might be doing in my growing relationship with Jesus Christ. You walked into this building. You said, I came here so that I can hear what God might be doing in my life. And I don't know. That's why I'm saying today, I'm not asking you to commit to joining some team. We just want you to consider what God might be leaning your way and leaning you toward considering today. You see, we don't want you next week or 2 weeks from now. Like, forget about this. Like, we want you sometime this week to really give consideration. And here's how that goes. I'm going to make an ask, but before I make the ask, I want to tell you what the ask is not. The ask is not that you commit today to serving on a team. So if you're worried about that, don't sweat it. The ask is that you would give good consideration to what you heard today from our volunteers, from what you heard from Matt, from what you are like, what you might hear in a future step. I want you to get information. So here's what we're going to do. There's a card. There's a card on the back of your chairs. If you're in the front row, it's under your chairs. If you're online, you'll see it on the screen right now. And on that card, there's a QR code. And the QR code, you can go ahead and you can take out your phone, your smartphone, and go to the place where your QR code reader is, and you can go ahead and scan this code, and it will take you to a page. Now, if you don't know how to do that and you don't want to do that, then you can go another way. You can go to our website, journeyrva.com/interest. And it will take you to the same page as the QR code. When you get there, there's a couple of things that are waiting for you there. One of them is a super duper helpful video. Some of you all have been serving in one area, but you don't know anything about the other areas. Maybe you've never served. Perhaps you've only been going to Journey during the time of the pandemic, and some of our ministry environments have not been open during that time. So you will benefit from watching this short video that gives you a cool synopsis, and it shows you in action some of these ministry environments. So that's what's there for you at the website. But the other thing that we want you to do there is to fill out probably the shortest form that you're going to fill out all year. It'll take you 30 seconds. We just ask for your name and contact, but it's a chance for you to indicate which ministry environment you would like to get more information about. Now, how the more information comes is sometimes you can read it there online, sometimes there's a video to watch, but for some of the environments, it's best to just go and see it in action or go to an orientation. So you will hear from one of the team members of that ministry environment that you selected. They'll reach out to you this week, and they'll give you next steps as far as you getting more information for your own personal consideration. But we do invite you to go there, not later in a couple weeks, but to go there this week. In fact, for some of you today, even right now, you can go ahead and scan that code and check out how to take a next step for your own consideration. It just might be what God is leading you to do.